video, I'll talk about domain within Power BI. What is domain within Power BI? Domain is a way of logically grouping together artifacts within an organization relevant to a specific area or field. Now, we can group data by business departments, business units, group by projects, group by geographies, cities, branch, etc., depending on your organization hierarchy, organization structure. Now, why it is domain important is because think about it like you have a Power BI service and it has workspaces. Now, think about it like if you have more than say 100 workspace. Now, it is very difficult to navigate between different workspaces and you don't know like which workspace belong to which particular user or groups or sections or geography. So, it is a nice way of collating those workspace and assigning it to a specific domain. Now, the domain can be, say, take for example, if your organization is spread across multiple countries, so you can have a domain of USA, New Zealand, England, India, Japan, China. Or if you have a organization within Australia, so you can have Queensland or New South Wales or South Australia or Western Australia as a domain, or you can have domains specific to departments like sales, marketing, finance, supply chain, purchases, all those kind of things. Or maybe it can be specific to a branch like Brisbane, Logan, Gold Coast, like that. Now, depending on your requirement, you can organize your structure in domains. So domains basically group together relevant artifacts, and workspaces are attached or associated with the domain. Now, domain do not grant or restrict access to content. So, domain does not take part in the security aspect of the workspace. So, workspace has its own set of security. You can assign workspaces to various individuals or security groups, and depending on the permission levels set, like the members or contributors or the admin, the permission gets assigned. Domain is just like a logical grouping or logical structure which gets applied to the workspaces. Now, multiple workspaces can be assigned to a domain. You can change the cover image for its specific domain. Power BI admin can create and edit the domains. Multiple subdomains, so you can have a subdomain within a domain. So that's basically creating a folder, and you can house that are housed basically inside a domain. Now, domain contributors can add or remove the workspaces assignment from domain. Now, domain contributor does not take part in the workspace permission. It is just like, you have a domain and you are associating a workspaces. So domain contributors can add or remove the workspace assignments from the domain. Users, new and unassigned workspaces can be defaulted to a specific domain. Now, just to show you from a setting perspective how the domain looks like. So let me again go back to the slide and show you from an admin portal perspective. If you are an admin, then if you navigate to admin portal under domains, you will see various domains over here. I have created a couple of domains, and then within domains, I have a subdomain. Now, there is an option to assign workspace. You can create a new subdomain and various other domain settings. So these are like domain settings. You can change the general settings, name and description. You can attach an image. You can allocate domain admin. You can set a default domain for a specific security group or a user, and you can add or remove workspaces from that specific domain. Now, domain usages, where it is used. So while searching for a workspace, you can make use of the domain. So as you see over here, you are able to filter that out on basis of the domain. You can also view from the small tiny icon, just identifying that this workspace is part of specific domain. So now in this case, this workspace is part of the tax domain. And also, like if you go to One Lake Data Hub here, you will see various uses of that specific domain. You can reassign a workspace. You can reassign people to this default domain. So there are like a lot of options which you can perform. So let me show you an action. So what is the purpose of domain? Now, As you see over here, first what I'll do is like this is a Power BI service. I have an option to navigate to create, and then I can create various Power BI content. I can navigate to browse, and I can see the recent favorites, shared me sections. Now in One Lake Data Hub, there is an option whereby it will show you all the domains, and then depending on your right, like I have access on finance and HR, I'll be seeing those, and then on basis of that I can select a specific domain. Now watch what happens. So if I click on sales order, now I'm under the context of sales order domain. Now this is the image which I see as a part of the domain. And if I make this change, say if I go to stocks, or if I go to onboarding, as you see over here, now the icon changes and also the content changes. So it will only show me the workspace which are attached to this onboarding domain. Okay, so the content also changes. So this is that uh, onboarding is a domain, and I see that there is only one workspace attached to this domain. Now the moment I change from finance to sales order, I can see that there are Girish Dev, USA Workspace, and then there are various semantic model associated with that workspaces. So it will basically allow you to filter out the content which is displayed on basis of which domain you are associated with. Okay, now this is one option. Second option is like basically if you go to workspaces, now that if say there are like more than 100 workspaces, now it's very difficult to understand like how many workspaces are part of this particular Power BI service. Now I have a limited list, so I can easily search in just by browsing. But then think about like if you have like maybe 200 or 300 workspaces within the Power BI service, then how do you filter that out? So here in this filter option here, you will see that you can see that there are HR, finance, IT, sales domain. And within HR, you have safety, recruitment, onboarding. And within finance, you have stock, sales, order, CFO, tax. Within sales, you have sales Japan. Now, if I just want to see sales Japan as a domain, then as you click on it, here you will see that you just have one workspace attached to that specific domain. Now, it's a nice way of filtering. And then from that point onwards, you can go ahead and you can have a look into that specific workspaces. Now, coming back to workspaces, let me clear that out. Now, if I'll just remove all the selection, if I select finance, then as you see over here, there are some other workspaces gets displayed. If I select finance and IT, then it gives me combination of finance and IT domain. If I just select IT, then it will just show me IT domain workspace. And if I remove all the selection, then it will show me all the workspaces which I have access to. Now here, if you see the small icon, this diamond icon indicates fabric content. Then this icon indicates the Microsoft Fabric trial workspace. And then this icon specifies that this workspace is attached to a domain. Now, PP workspace is attached to stocks domain. So this icon, so let me just zoom in a bit. So this icon is a domain icon. Okay. So if you hover your mouse over this icon, then it will tell you that this workspace is part of the HR domain, or this workspace is part of HR domain, or this workspace is part of sales order domain. So just by looking into this particular icon, you will know that this workspace belongs to a specific domain. Now, how do we create a domain? If you go to settings, and if you go to admin portal, and if you have an admin rights on your Power BI service, then there is an option called as domains on the left hand side. Now here I have created various domains. Now the domain which I have created is on the basis of the function of the department. Now as I mentioned to you at the start, that it can be any hierarchy. It can be country, it can be city, it can be functions, it can be your dev, test, prod, it can be anything, now, say take for example, if I just create a new domain and call this as USA, and I can specify the domain admin. Now in this, I'll just specify myself as the admin. So I've created a domain called as USA. Then I'll create another domain called as say England. So I'm now creating domain as per the country. Now even I can create a domain as say UAT, or I'll just call it as create a domain as prod. Or maybe I can just create a domain on basis of say it's the city, so I'll just call it as Brisbane, or maybe I'll just call it as Sydney. So depending on your structure you can define those, but make sure that one domain will get attached to a workspace. Okay. And then the say one workspace will get attached to only one domain. Okay. So depending on your requirement you can create this domain. Now in USA, say if this is a domain, now I can further structure this out by creating a subdomain. So I'll create a new subdomain and I'll call it as maybe West US, and I'll create a subdomain whereby I'll call it as Central US, and I'll create a subdomain called as East US. So like this, I can create various subdomains. Now let me go back to USA domain. So I'm in USA domain. If I click on domain settings, I have an option to set the image. So I can set the cover image. Now cover images are selected like it's a predefined image. So we get 20 options over here. I'll pick up this option. I'll click on select. So this will be the cover image for the domain. Admins, I've already assigned an admin. Now what can admin do? Admin does not get involved in the permission of the workspace or the content of the workspace, but it is just for the management of the domain. So admin can basically change the domain settings, and they can add or remove the workspace. Now the only difference between admin and contributor is that contributor can add or remove workspaces. So admin cannot, contributors cannot do the domain setting part. So if I go to contributor, I can say entire organization is a contributor or a specific user is a contributor. So let me put Alex's name, and Alex is the specific user who's the contributor. And I can apply the changes. Now default domain. Now what it is? Now default domain means when you add people to this list, their new and unassigned workspaces will be automatically assigned to the domain. So, take for example, if you have many users within your organization and people have already created multiple workspaces, or maybe there might be a user who might be joining your Power BI service and then they will be creating various workspaces. And if you want to create a separate domain, so if the user does not explicitly specify that this workspace belong to a specific domain, then you can mark that particular user or a security group. So take for example, if I say if Edel creates anything, okay, and if Edel has a new and unassigned workspace, it will automatically be assigned to USA workspace. Or maybe I have a security group, so I have the sec3 security group. If any user belonging to the security group, and if they have a new and unassigned workspace, it will be automatically assigned to the domain. So I'll go ahead and click on apply. It says reassign people to this default domain. Some people you're missing already have a default domain, they will now be reassigned to the default domain, and I'll say okay. So it is suggesting me that there might be an option that like say security 3 has some set of users and all those users are already assigned to a specific domain. I'm okay with it. I'll just override the changes. So I've made those changes. So now I have created a domain which is USA, and I have created subdomains within that. So central US. So if I go to central US and if I go to subdomain setting, I get a limited option. I can see subdomain name and subdomain description. Now here, if we go to the domain, I can assign workspaces to the domain. So I'll say for USA, I can either assign by workspace name. So if I have anything related to say US, okay, let me see if I have anything related to US. Yes, I have related to US name as USA workspace, but USA workspace is already assigned to a domain, and that's why you see this error message. It says this will detach USA workspace. So now USA workspace is already attached to a specific domain. Now it will detach USA workspace from that old domain, and it will assign to the current USA domain. Do you want to do that? I'll say okay, go ahead and reassign it. And now I have added USA workspace uh, to this particular domain. Now, other option, I can assign by workspace admin. I'll say assign by workspace admin. I'll say anything related to say legal uh, should be assigned to this particular USA domain. I'll click on apply. And if there are any uh, domain related to legal, will get assigned to this, but I'm not sure like I have anything assigned to leq, but there are options. So again, if I go to assign workspace, I'll say assign by capacity. So if I have that capacity list, I have this trial and premium per user reserved, I can select this and I can say from this list, uh, say trial or premium per user reserved, I can assign all the workspaces belonging to that capacity to be part of this domain. So there are multiple options for me to add the workspace to this domain. So let me discard this now. Let me go into say East US. Now in East US, I can assign a workspace. Now I assign a workspace either by name or a workspace admin or capacity. Let me assign it by name. And then if I just type in, I will see if I get something. So let me say I have this Girish Pension Fund. Now Girish Pension Fund is already assigned to some domain. I will assign it to East US and then I'll say, okay, I'll click on apply. Now Girish Pension Fund is assigned to this domain. So this is how you basically play around with the hierarchy within the Power BI service. So what we have done, we have created a domain. We have created this domain. We have created named as USA. And in USA, we have created three subdomains: West US, Central US, East US, and we have attached this particular workspaces. So Girish Dev and USA workspaces are basically a workspace, and we have assigned it to a USA domain. And within East US, we have assigned Girish Pension Fund as a workspace to that East US domain. So this is how we have set up the hierarchy. So if I go to domain settings, I have set up the cover image, and I'll just close this now. Now, let me go to home over here. And now if I go to One Lake Data Hub, all domains, I can see this option now, USA. Okay, sometimes the images does not get reflected. So you do a control F5, and then after a while, you should be able to see that icon. So now if I go to USA, I will be only seeing the USA domain related content, like we have this Girish Dev and USA workspaces. And from a search perspective, again, if I go to workspaces, from a filtering perspective, here I can see USA and East US. So if I want to see only workspaces belong to East US, I just select East US, and as you see over here, I can see one Girish INC pension fund. And if I select both, then I see three specific workspaces attached to that domain. So this is a way of structuring basically to filter out the information as your workspaces, as your Power BI service uh, has like more than say 100 workspaces. It might be difficult to search, filter, or narrow down to a specific workspaces for a specific role. Then this is a way through which you can organize or structure a content. So that's it, folks. This is all about domains within Power BI. Thanks for watching.